Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This is called the Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. Please repeat. Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamupashitaha Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Bhutamad Bhavamagataha. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. This is a little bit of a long purport. I was thinking of this verse because of Mother Rasagya's recent passing. We all want to come to the point where we become purified by knowledge of Krishna and attain love for Krishna. And she was the personification of a great devotee who attained this great love for Krishna. Purport: as described above, it is very difficult for a person who is materially attached, who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the supreme absolute truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep the same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. For such materialistic men, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the supreme to be impersonal. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. When they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again. And so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. Generally, they compare the living entities to bubbles of the ocean, which merge into the ocean. That is the highest perfection of spiritual existence, attainable without individual personality. This kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence, this is a kind of fearful stage of life devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all. Being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause. Some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculations out of hopelessness. This last class of men take shelter of some kind of intoxication and their affective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. One has to get rid of all these three stages of attachment to the mature world. Number one, negligence of spiritual life. Number two, fear of spiritual personal identity, and the conception of void that underlies the frustration of life. To get free from these three stages of the material concept of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of Godhead. So, we were singing these beautiful songs. Mukunda was so wonderfully singing, bringing us to different places, to Vrindavan, where Krishna is being worshipped through the wonderful chanting of the holy names. And we see there in Vrindavan the perfection of the devotional attitude, of the surrender to Krishna. Fearlessness, this verse is saying, if we become free from fear, when you go to Vrindavan, and by hearing about Vrindavan, by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, for instance, we've all heard these different pastimes before, but they're all very instructive and amazing pastimes. Quickly, the wonderful story of Krishna and Aghasura demon. There's so many cowherd boys. They're all playing nicely in the forest, right? They're all jumping and playing and running after frogs and bird shadows and running after to see who can touch Krishna first. Having a great ecstatic time in Vrindavan. Krishna and Balaram. Krishna is glorifying Balaram. Actually, was Balaram? Balaram wasn't there that day. Normally. Krishna glorifies Lord Balaram. He's the elder brother, describing to him how the beautiful plants and creepers and fruits are being offered to him. The trees are bowing down in humility, offering all their beautiful fruits and flowers for the Lord. So Lord travels through Vrindavan with the cowherd boys. But there's this big demon named Kamsa that is always trying to kill Krishna. So because he was such a powerful demon, he defeated all these huge demons. And he made them his slaves, basically, and sent them to try and kill Krishna. They were very lucky, though, because Krishna killed all of them, and they got so much benefit. So this one in particular was gigantic snake. I think he was 8 miles. Am I right? 8 or 12. I mean, Putana became like 12 miles when she stretched out. 8 mile long snake. So from here to 8 miles isn't quite that far. Maybe from here to 35. I don't know. Anyway, it's really big. So all of a sudden, the cowherd boys are jolly running around with their cows, going through the pasturing grounds. And all of a sudden, they see this gigantic mountain cave thing. They're like, wow, look at that. It looks like a big cave. See how high it goes up to the clouds. And they're just amazed at how big his mouth is. It's just like tremendous. It's gigantic. It's like his teeth look like mountain peaks. I was just up in Mexico with Chitsukananda. We got to see some nice mountains up in Veracruz, Mexico. Beautiful, huge mountains. So I was thinking, wow, these mountain peaks must be like the inside of Aghasura's mouth. He was so big. So they were, just like, wow, this is so big. What is it? They thought it's some kind of cave. And they said, no, I don't think it's a cave. There's this really weird, bad, fishy smell coming out of his mouth, like a big wind tunnel. And that looks like a tongue. And that's his jaw. Look at how big his jaw is. And they were like, he's so huge. They thought, no way, this is a big snake and he wants to eat us all. And they were like, wow, let's go. They were like, Krishna's right there. He kills all the demons. What's the big problem? He's there. We got nothing to fear. We'll watch Krishna kill this one too. I mean, So they enthusiastically went into the jaws of death. This big Aghasura demon trying to kill them. Amazingly gigantic demon. And how many hundreds of thousands of cows and cowherd boys went into that mouth? Boy, we won't know, right? Because Krishna didn't have a couple of cows. They had millions of cows. I mean, they had so many cows, and Krishna knew the names of all the cows, all his cows, probably everybody else's too. He used to call them, and they would moo back to Krishna. So they were all enthusiastically engaged in Krishna's service there, and the giving Krishna pleasure in Vrindavan, hearing and chanting about Krishna, talking about Krishna killing this demon and that demon. Oh, wow, here's another one. So they all run in, and then Krishna watches them all go inside, and Aghasura is waiting. When is Krishna going to come? But they were totally fearless. How many of us would run into a gigantic snake's mouth? Nobody. I mean, we'd be, heading back the other way as fast as possible. Nobody would go inside that mouth. Nobody. Who in their right mind? You see this gigantic monster in with a Godzilla or something way bigger than that, and who would stick around? So, but the coward boys were happily running inside the mouth. So Krishna was a little bit in anxiety. Wow, this is so amazing. He's thinking, like, they've gone into the mouth of the serpent. How am I going to kill him? He's thinking for a minute. He wasn't really concerned, but he was thinking like that, Prabhupada says. He was concerned how to deal with the situation. So he figured it out. And then he went inside the mouth of the big demon and expanded himself and suffocated Aghasura, who thought he was so cool because he had Krishna in his mouth. He was going to be the only demon that killed Krishna. All the rest of them got killed. He was thinking he was the best because Krishna was right in his mouth. Very puffed up. His giant body. But Krishna instantly just expanded himself and suffocated the demon and killed him and glanced over everybody, and whoever was unconscious brought them back. They all, Haribo Krishna. And it became a big playground place. Afterwards, they'd slide down the snake and everything. It was like a big playground after that for a long time. So, taking shelter of Krishna is fearless. We sing that beautiful song, Krishna Prabhu Sat, Bajahure Mana Shrinandanandana Abhaya Chanara Vindure. So the only way to become free from fear and free from the mundane attachments and attachment, fear, and anger is to simply take shelter of Brajendanandana. He is so wonderful that he gives shelter to everybody in such a wonderful way. So we need to hear these pastimes of Vrindavan. When he was singing Yasomati Nandana Brajabalanagara Gokula Kaliya Dhamana Vidhan. Kaliya, serpent, another one. Who's this big serpent? And he polluted the entire Yamuna, was killing everything around. And the cowherd boys all came and they drank water, and the cows, and they all passed out and died. And Krishna glanced over them and brought them back to life. Decided he would chastise the rascal. Jumped in off this tree. He was all like a beautifully dressed wrestler and tightened his belt and slapped his arms and dove in, jumped in, and the water overflowed like this enormous thing had gone. And Krishna's just a little boy, but like a giant thing went in the water and caused these big waves. And he was swimming around so powerfully that immediately it agitated Kaliya. Who is in my lake? And he looked and he saw Krishna with his snake, all of his snake eyes. And he saw Krishna was so beautiful. He was amazed how beautiful Krishna was, but he was so envious, he had to attack Krishna. So he went and he grabbed Krishna with the coils of his tail, held Krishna there for 2 hours. And how was Vrindavan were all coming? They saw some inauspicious omens. They're like, oh no, Krishna went to the forest without Balaram today. Who's going to protect him? Something's happened. So all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, it describes, all the inhabitants began following Krishna's beautiful lotus footprints with the thunderbolt and the lotus, and all these things are following Krishna's footprints in total anxiety. And they finally get to the Yamuna and they see Krishna wrapped up in the coils of Kaliya. They were so distraught. They were almost dying. Mother Yasoda fainted. She tried to go in to save Krishna, and they grabbed her, and she fainted. She was just laying on the ground, just looking at Krishna, totally absorbed in love for Krishna, and total anxiety that Krishna was going to die. They all thought Krishna was going to die. So just on the verge of them all just about dying of anxiety, Krishna decided to go ahead and get out. So he expanded himself a little bit, and immediately Kaliya had to let go because he couldn't stop Krishna's expanding. And then Krishna jumped on his heads and danced on his heads and kicked him in the head as he was dancing so many times that Kaliya began to vomit all this horrible, toxic envy in the form of venom, which he was very proud of. He was so puffed up when Garuda was coming to the island where Kaliya lived, he was indiscriminately killing snakes. So they decided to offer some kind of sacrifice for Garuda. So they told him, look, we'll put a big snake there and some other food, and you just come and eat that one without killing a whole bunch of us. And if that's okay. Because Garuda is so powerful. He's the carrier of Lord Vishnu. He's unlimitedly powerful. So he said, okay. But Kaliya thought, who is this Garuda anyway? I am so powerful. I have 100 heads. I have so much venom. I can kill anybody. I'm so powerful. I'm the best of all the snakes. So he started eating all the offerings. And Garuda heard about this. So Garuda came and chastised Kaliya, and Kaliya fled. And he went to the lake in Yamuna because Subari Muni had foolishly put a curse, he thought, on Garuda to not come in the lake to kill the big fish because Garuda was taking some fish out of there also. So Kaliya was very puffed up, but Krishna was chastising him and chastising, kicking and kicking, and pretty soon he was almost dead. He was like smoke coming out of his mouth. He was coughing. He didn't have any more poison left. His hoods were all broken up from Krishna's lotus feet smacking him. He had powder from Krishna's feet on his head. He was totally exhausted, and he finally began to realize that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna punished him so much in such an amazing way. Finally, he began to realize, and then Kaliya's wives came and offered prayers to Krishna to please don't kill him or his wives and children. So Krishna said, okay, just get out of here. Leave Vrindavan forever. So the inhabitants of Vrindavan and everybody who takes shelter of Krishna gets purified. So that's what this process of Krishna consciousness is how to become attached to Krishna. There's different processes of yoga where you become detached from the material world by breathing and doing pranayams and meditating and stuff that can't be done properly in Kali Yuga. Arjuna said, this is impossible. I can't do this. The mind is too powerful. So Krishna describes there later on in the 5th chapter here that there's 2 ways, devotional activities and renunciation and material attachment. So in this age, Srila Prabhupada came and gave us spiritual work to do. He gave us spiritual work. So Mother Rasagya and so many great devotees all around the world have been engaging in preaching activities and dramas and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books and wonderful prasadam. And in this way, they become very, very attached to Krishna because they've sacrificed. That's the key. This activity of devotional service means we have to make some sacrifice, just like our great hosts here who so kindly open up their home. They've had to clean and clean and clean, and then they had to arrange for so many of us to take prasadam. It's a great sacrifice, isn't it? And then you're going to have to clean up afterwards. You'll be up till 2 a.m. We know this. We've all done this. So it's a great sacrifice, but it makes everybody so happy. So that's what it's all about. Our sacrifice is happy sacrifice, right? Because it's all done for love, out of love for the devotees. We want to dadati pratigrinati guyam akyati prichate bhungte bojayate chava sad vidhim piti lakshanam. I think I got the last one right. That engaging in the loving exchanges with devotees is the process of Krishna consciousness, accepting prasadam, offering prasadam, accepting prasadam, offering gifts. accepting the gift. Sometimes people want to give us something, right? Devotees try and give you something. Say, no, it's okay. No, we have to accept those gifts because we're honoring them by letting them give them the gift. I remember in New York, those of us who have been to New York Rath Yatra, time to quit, huh? Uh-oh. They made tow, huh? Just far against the fire hydrant. Somebody in a Honda. What? How many doors? What color? Sorry. Anyway, we're in New York, and His Holiness Sridhar Maharaj would come all the time to New York Rath Yatra, and many of us got so much association with him. He's such a wonderful, loving devotee. And this was right before he left his body, like maybe the year and a half before, something like that. And he was he was pushing himself to help the devotees clean all the whole festival site. And he was always so encouraging. He would encourage everybody alive and everybody to clean the whole Rath Yatra site until it was all done. It was like a wonderful, ecstatic marathon with him at the helm. So I just happened to be at the door when he came in, and he had, by this time, he didn't know it yet, but it was like liver cancer, plus he had type C hepatitis. So he was going through some extreme struggles with his health already, and he was very weak. When he came back, I could see he was about ready to fall over. So I helped him, and the elevator didn't work there, so I helped him walk up the stairs. I thought, let me put this big fat body to some use and help him get up those stairs, you know? So we helped him get up the stairs, and he put him in his bed, and he had his shoes on still. So I took his shoes and socks off, and I gave him a really good massage for a few minutes. Thought, let me do some service for him. So he didn't want me to. I said, Mars, okay, you need it, you know, you're tired. So the next morning, Urjaswat and I are sitting in the ashram room, and Mars breaks through the door. He comes in through the doors come flying open, and he comes running over to me, and he grabs me by the legs. I was laying down, we were looking at talking, and he starts to massage my legs, and I was like, I don't want to let him do that. He's the Maharaj. Who am I? You know, I'm just some fallen Grihasta guy. But I thought, well, I have to let him, you know, he wants to do this, so I have to let him do it. And it was very ecstatic. Afterwards, I let him, you know, just do whatever he wanted. And then he got up and we talked for like an hour about all kinds of wonderful things. He spoke to me in Urjaswat about so much nectar. So sometimes it's uncomfortable to accept gifts, but we still have to do that. We have to be humble and respect the person who's giving the gift. And then it becomes very ecstatic. Chitsukananda Prabhu down in Mexico. Anybody here know Chitsukananda? Raise your hand. He's such a fabulous Vaishnava. He's so humble. He's such a great soul. We were there for about a week. He fed probably 50 people a day in his house. I mean, just people constantly coming in. He cooked. His kitchen, we'd clean it up. Minutes later, it was a total mess again because he's cooking another huge feast for the next meal for the next bunch of people to come in. And the people love him so much. They have a special thing in that city called Hiko where they whistle. You know, they have a really simple, sweet little whistle for everybody. They have a special one for Chit because they have a special whistle for all the different people. Don is like a respected gentleman. Don Chit. So they have a whistle that means Don Chit. So when he comes through town, they do this this Don Chit whistle. You know, it's like them offering obeisances to Chit. And this one person who stopped him on the street because they know his vehicle, and they stopped him. And they said, Prabhu, they said, when we see you in town, it gives us hope. It's like, wow. He feeds everybody so much prasadam. It's amazing, him and his wife and his kids. And anyway, Krishna is very pleased by the giving mode of helping others. And he and Rasa are the epitome of the example of those that we know, that I know anyway, who are in that mode of wonderful giving. Krishna is so pleased, cannot estimate how pleased Krishna is when we serve the devotees and help others become devotees. It's inconceivable. Krishna is so pleased. We heard some stories from some of the people there about Chitsukananda that I don't know if I should tell them because it's too far out and people may not believe it. But anyway, it was like revelation of Krishna by some people. It was like so amazing. Did I tell you, Radhika? You think we should tell that or not? Wow, it was so amazing. Anyway, Chitsukananda Prabhu, like I say, he's nonstop love. And so when he was away one time at a different house, he was living in different houses. He's got this beautiful, huge like castle right now with this Hare Krishna mantra on it. Everybody has to drive through town, has to see the Hare Krishna mantra. There's only one road coming up and one road going down. So he's on the big corner of on the road coming up. So you have to see Hare Krishna when you come in town. And anyway, so these people were coming by to check on his house. And they noticed that the door was open. They were very concerned. And so they wanted to go and open the door and check and see if there was somebody in there. So they went to the door and they opened the door and they stopped. They were shocked. They saw some really very, very unusual person in the dining area. He was dark blue. He had very bright golden cloth on. And they were like, and they closed the door and they left. Wonder who that was. It's like, wow. Amazing. So, who knows who we are? All of you, at least. I know I'm a fallen rascal. But we don't know who we're sitting next to, who they are in the spiritual world. What is their wonderful, amazing relationship with Krishna. Anyway, so that's the process we see works. Loving, giving, accepting gifts. Now, when people approach us to ask us questions, or we approach advanced devotees, that's the third one, that we must give our hearts in confidence to some Vaishnava or Vaishnavi we trust, so that we can reveal ourselves to that person so that they can help us see which way we should go in spiritual life. Because we're all individual, and we all have individual needs and individual karma and individual natures. So it takes somebody who's a little bit more advanced than us to actually help us to see the path. That's why we accept the spiritual master, and we also accept advanced devotees to help us. But we have to be able to approach somebody and trust them to speak to them. And then we listen. We speak to them and reveal ourselves to that person who we trust, and then we very carefully listen to them. Help us see properly how to gain gradual, slow process of Krishna consciousness, to see the big picture and to see which direction we should go in, because we all have a different path, so to speak, towards Krishna according to our own personalities and our own natures. So these things are okay.